All right, boys. I have the perfect idea for a Friday the 13th sequel. See, we've been with Jason Voorhees and that fuckhead paramedic for a bunch of movies now, and every time they are in or around Camp Crystal Lake. Well, technically, sir, in part 6, he was in Forest. Shut the fuck up, Bobby. Now, what if we try a little something different, all right? Okay? What if Jason Voorhees is, stay with me now, brought to New York City? Wouldn't that be great? The only problem is, we don't have the money to film in New York City for more than about, 20 minutes. So we're gonna need to fill 70 minutes of runtime. Now, does anyone have any idea how to fill 70 whole minutes of runtime?
Why won't you die?
Did you know that a young boy drowned the year before those two others were killed? The counselors weren't paying any attention. They were making love while that young boy drowned. His name was Jason.
Welcome to the year 2002. I know I said I wouldn't talk about the whole continuity thing, but I couldn't resist. Watching Jason Takes Manhattan with the knowledge of how fucked the timeline is really adds a delightfully surreal touch to the whole enterprise. Especially with that Batman logo behind the opening title. The producers of these movies were definitely a dedicated bunch who always tried to add a little extra something to their films, but the rules of space-time were not one of them. Jason Takes Manhattan. Jason on a boat. That's the gag, right? It's Jason on a boat. And while I would love to be the dedicated fan of this franchise who says, no, it's not just Jason on a boat, it's so much more. It's Jason on a boat. I hate to say it, but it really is Jason on a boat, and like a good maybe 15 minutes if we're being generous in the Big Apple, but mostly Vancouver. You know, it's stupid. It's a stupid fucking movie. I'm just gonna lay it out there. Even, like, if you're a fan of this movie, if you're not a fan of this movie, whatever the case may be, we can all just kumbaya around a fucking campfire and say, it's a fucking stupid movie. Okay, that's out of the way. It's dumb. Still gonna talk about how fucking stupid it is, though. Let's start off with this guy. Probably my favorite, like, performance in the movie, aside from Kane Hodder, Peter Mark Richmond as George McCulloch. He's basically the Dr. Cruz archetype carried over to a degree. He's the head teacher behind this boat trip. Well, actually, this chick is the main teacher behind the boat trip. He's the head boss man guy. I always forget what their fucking roles are as chaperones. He's one of the chaperones on this class of Crystal Lake High or whatever graduating trip thing. It's just an excuse to get Jason on a boat so he can make it to Manhattan. Why they couldn't get him to Manhattan in another fashion is beyond me. I'm not sure why a boat was the first logical solution. It's a lake. It's not connected to the ocean. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Anyway, where Dr. Cruz experimented on Tina using fear and stress, McCulloch uses it to help Rennie, our main girl, swim when she's younger.
And he's ready to pull down anybody who falls in and can't swim.
You're telling a lie.
And also, he's just kind of a dick.
Let's find out.
What a dick.
You dick!
Also along for the ride, we have a riff on the new blood sci-fi nerd boy Russell in the form of videographer Wayne, who of course necessitates his own Melissa riff in the form of Tamara.
I've had the major hots for you since our sophomore year, Tamara.
Who's basically just that character with a teacher seduction routine.
Hey.
A routine that begs the question, why does a graduating student have a biology project due while on the graduating class trip? Her death, by the way, has a great payoff. That was sadly, of course, cut from the final version, which is too bad because it's a really solid image. Like I'm gonna get into this later, but there's some striking imagery in this film, and it's really too bad that between MPAA cuts and just being a bad movie, those things are buried. Anyway, it's the logical questions that really bring down Jason Takes Manhattan from the get-go, especially compared to other films in the franchise. Like this has always been such a simple series of films that there's never really any major plot holes. You know, plot can be kind of dumb, characters can make weird decisions, but there's not really a lot of holes to them. This one's got plenty. It's so stupid and not really thought out. Some of this is due to production difficulties. Obviously, it was meant to take place primarily in New York, not a boat. Some of these issues, though, are hard to let go. Why does Jim have a Jason hockey mask complete with axe notch to scare his girlfriend when she doesn't even know the Jason story to begin with?
What murders?
Why does young Jason have such a more normal-looking appearance? And real quick, I know that it's supposed to be like his innocent self or whatever, I guess, maybe, but it looks stupid. What's the deal with Rennie's connection to Jason anyway? Why is Crazy Ralph's son in this?
This voyage is doomed.
Why did Jurassic Park: The Lost World rip off this plot for its final act? How are there no authorities at the port when our survivors arrive in New York? What's the deal with toxic waste being disposed of through New York sewers? I know 80s New York was a tough place, but yeesh. Back to Melissa 2.0, I do appreciate that while he is briefly tempted, Mr. McCulloch doesn't all the way give in to Tamara's advances. He gives her sufficient time for Wayne to get his blackmail evidence, as the story necessitates, I guess.
You can forget about attending any film school. Ever!
But it's nice that the asshole teacher doesn't stoop that low. However, why not just do the biology project that doesn't make any sense? I realize she's a drug-addicted bitch, but, like, it can't be that hard, right? Why blackmail the teacher? I know this is the part where the folks in the comments ask me to chill, it's just a stupid movie, it's meant for fun, but, like, there's a difference between dumb fun and questions that the writers must have asked themselves and just said, fuck it. And this movie puts a lot of time into these plot threads too. Like, a lot of screen real estate is utilized to just string us along with bullshit that just doesn't make any sense and easily could have been supplemented with a plot that did make sense. Like, it's not necessary. You can still, like, it's not like having Melissa 2.0 draw this biology project on her body, A, somehow, like, saved them $1 million, and B, certainly you could find another reason for her to seduce the teacher, or here's a thought. She could have just not tried to seduce the fucking teacher. Oh my god. Friday the 13th is a dumb franchise, but it's not supposed to be this dumb. The new Fred Mullen tracks, they don't hold up as well this time. They actually made me realize how much I'm not that big of a fan of Part 7's score. Like, I enjoy the new kind of psychic theme that's in that film, but his actual, like, changes to, like, the ki ma 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 theme song are kind of shitty. Like, they're very 80s, which is to be expected, of course, but they really don't work. It would have been much better to just have the old version. Like, just use Harry Manfredini's score. Like, y'all have it in your archives. It is something that is available to you. You own it. Paramount owns this music. Just use it, man. What the fuck?
You can't get the adrenaline pumping without the terror, good people.
Now, that said, the song he and the band Metropolis came up with for the opening credits is so good. It is such a great song. It is, dare I say, one of the iconic moments in this film. When I was younger, I thought that was like a song that they had to purchase. Like it was like maybe, this is a stretch, but like a Bruce Springsteen song, like a famous song that they were being allowed to use in the opening of this film. But it's made for the movie, and it is fucking great. So finally, I come to Jason. Kane Hodder's great as usual, and of course he brings his constantly pissed off Jason to the game, and well, if that's your bag, you get plenty of it. And this is a good point for me to actually take a sidestep and just note, I know that I was somewhat disparaging of Angry Jason in the previous review. I'm not, I thought I made this clear, but just to make it extra clear, I do love Kane Hodder's Jason. My preference is the more calm and collected Jason. Not that the old Jason's all that calm and collected, like, it's between Richard Brooker and Ted White, and Ted White was pretty violent and pretty, very much a strongman type. It's just, I feel like they go about it in a subtler way, whereas Kane Hodder is very much trying to be a badass, and he succeeds, but I'm not sure I like the idea of Jason as, like, a jock, even if it is, like, the kid who's picked on coming back to attack the jocks as a jockish kind of character. Like, I do appreciate the, I guess, dramatic irony in that, but I don't know. It's one of those things. I do really like it. I like watching it. It's just, if I had my druthers, he would be a little toned back. Not too much, just a little bit. So I just want to put that out there. I don't dislike Kane Hodder's Jason at all. I love Kane Hodder. I love Kane Hodder's Jason. I love all Jasons, in theory. There's potential for that to happen. Let me bring that down a little bit, but at least to this point in this franchise, I love all Jasons. Anyway, if you love angry, cruel Jason, man, there's a ton in this movie. Susie's spear to the chest is slow, painful, and kinda sad to watch as she cries for mercy and slowly dies while he pokes and prods her. This guy gets a hot rock to the chest. God damn. Tamara is terrorized in a small bathroom and stabbed to death with a shard of broken mirror. McCulloch is drowned in toxic waste. This attempted rapist gets impaled by a frickin' heroin needle. It's mean-spirited stuff. And if you like that, fuck yeah, man. These kills fucking rock. And, like, looking at the slashed scenes portion I'll get into later, they weren't cut that much. Like, there's some, like the spear gun to the stomach, not only the really important little millisecond cut out, but the way that it's then presented, there's this kind of, and Kane Hodder mentions it on the commentary track, but there's this thought process some people have. That they think that the, band thing on the spear gun is supposed to be intestines, and they think the intestines look really fake. And they're not intestines, it's just part of the spear gun. And you can see that, it's very obvious. But I can understand the confusion, partly because, it's not something you're really gonna think about when you first see the spear gun, but also, like, the way the cut is made. In the original cut, you see it go in and come out. And in this version, you don't really see that portion. And so you see him stab forward, and then he pulls this thing out, and it's covered in this bloody, tubing. Yeah, I can understand why someone might think those are intestines. That's totally understandable. But for the most part, I really don't think the cuts are that extreme. Would I prefer they were not there? Absolutely. There's definitely, like, plenty of room for improvement on the gore front. But I think that overall, this film handles it very well. And I think a lot of the kills are shot and edited in such a way that the censorship never really comes through that much. Take this kill, for example. The dude in the sewer that they meet who informs them of the ridiculous toxic waste plot just gets bashed in the face, and it's just good filmmaking. You get the the silhouette and then the blood splatter. Like, that's really, really, really impactful stuff, and there's not really any gore. It's just throw some paint on the wall, boom, done, awesome. And we actually get a few really fun kills. While I could paint it as cruel in its own way, Julius's death by knockout is an absolute series highlight, thanks in part to him actually punching Jason with full force, with the big Galook just riding it out and letting the boxer wear himself down.
Your best shot. Motherfucker.
and we get a decapitated head POV shot. I also love the ship captain's death. It's not particularly gory, but the up-angle shot, the slow reveal of the sliced throat, and Jason standing above like the angel of death. Oh, can I get a metal guitar riff? I don't know how to play guitar. Does it just look like I'm jerking off? Jason's look is also pretty solid here. I find his mask kinda ridiculous just because of the silly way he gets it, but his increased zombification and constantly waterlogged appearance is pretty fucking great and goes down as one of my favorite looks in the franchise. If I was to ever do an actual Jason cosplay, this would be it. I love this Jason. Oh, and good old Kane gets to kill his successor. Son of a bitch. Speaking of looks, this film looks mostly like garbage, at least relatively speaking. The location shoots in New York and even in Vancouver are fine, but the stuff aboard the ship, i.e. most of it, looks like a direct-to-Sci-Fi Channel movie of the week. And not like Frankenfish movie of the week, I'm talking like the not good stuff. When we do arrive in New York, that city basically makes up for any flaws behind the camera. I mean, you know, when they're actually in New York and not Vancouver. It's hard to be mad at this film though. Out of all the movies in the series, this one had the most production issues. Most of the originally intended New York scenes were changed to accommodate the slashed budget and decreased location shooting. This scene was meant to take place in Madison Square Garden, this one in a New York nightclub, which, come to think of it, why couldn't they just build a set in Vancouver for that? Whatever. Then there's the lack of finality. One of the bigger narrative mistakes for my money is the decision to create a psychic connection between Rennie and Jason. The idea is that she has to set his soul free, but this is made less explicit in the final edit because the producers wanted to leave room for Jason's return. This muddled approach is actually a first for the series. Jason is generally beaten at the end of all previous films, even if they're kinda open-ended. While his death here is definitely enough compared to those entries, it's just ruined by this dumb Muppet face and a lame resolution to an equally lame subplot. By making it so vague, the whole thing is rendered pointless, just like that dumb biology project nonsense. It also, again, it just looks awful. Like even, God, the original concept for this with the giant awful mouth and the kid inside. Oh, so many mistakes were made! Ah, crap, I got negative again. Hey look, it's Jason, bemused by a hockey billboard. Father! You gotta love this movie's sense of humor. It doesn't always work or like exist, but when it shows up, it's actually pretty chuckle-worthy. Director Rob Hedden is obviously talented, he just wound up making a kinda shitty movie, which, you know, that sucks, that happens. No big deal, I've done it.
Francois, no. God, no. No, Francois.
Just look at some of these shots. There's some great shit in here. It's just buried under the bad kind of shit. And that's unfortunate because, again, I think there's a lot of potential here. It's just, you'll never know what he could have done with the movie, what the whole team could have done with the movie if they hadn't been stymied by production setbacks, budgetary restrictions. Like, they really could have made a fucking massive, just huge hit. Like, imagine the reviews if it was actually Jason like 75% of the movie, or even 50% of the movie in New York. That would have been fucking stellar. They would have recouped that budget lickety-split. Luckily, Jason Takes Manhattan does get much better once our castaways inexplicably enter the Big Apple. Again, a lot of it is just Vancouver, but the production team does a good job a lot of the time, most notably with this subway car. Yeah, that's in Vancouver. Cool, right? The big Times Square reveal is really solid and features one of my top 10 best Friday the 13th moments ever.
You're a dead meat slime bag! Yo, man, it's cool. It's cool, man. It's cool.
I just love, like, the whole thing is just, it's a dumb gag, but it's so perfect. It's just, like, Tom McLaughlin, I love ya. I love Jason Lives. This is probably the best all-out gag in any Friday the 13th movie, bar none. Also, just like when he rises up and Kane Hodder's in that mask, just looking around and seeing all the people want. I mean, they have like folks cordoned off on the sides. You can see them just looking and reveling in this moment. You know, Jason Voorhees in the middle of Times Square, chasing down victims, potential victims. Oh, just great stuff. Imagine like 60 minutes of that. Oh. Man. So Jason Takes Manhattan. You know, is it a bad movie? I think that depends on what you define as a bad movie. Do you consider it good if it's just entertaining? If so, you know, this is actually a pretty okay flick. Like, it is entertaining, it's just, you know, it doesn't really fulfill its promise. It's very much, as the joke goes, Jason on a boat, but like, as just like a weird little adventure for Mr. Voorhees to go on, it's not too bad. You know, hey, it's the one where Jason goes to New York, kinda. Yeah. And that's all right. It's okay to have a little fun. It's okay to fuck around a bit. I think we'll, you know, arrive at an entry that does it better, but it's interesting, you know? It's not just another Camp Crystal Lake outing. I would be fine if they just did those indefinitely, but, you know, whatever. They needed to shake things up. They tried shaking it up. They did not have the means to shake it up properly, but, you know, they tried. There's some good bits of humor. There's some good deaths. There's a very solid Jason performance that, you know, is in there for most of the runtime. It's just, you know, kind of shitty. But, you know, if you're okay with just pure entertainment value and you don't care about story flaws, of which this movie has a lot, or production flaws or dumb Muppets or whatever, you know, it's pretty good. It is a fun movie. Now, if you're looking strictly from a narrative or production standpoint, this movie fucking sucks. But with that badness comes plenty of charm and weird idiosyncrasies that for me really help to make it a rewatchable little jaunt. It's not as wild as the title suggests, and the characters are mostly pretty bleh, but Kane Hodder puts in a great Jason performance, as I mentioned, and when either he or New York are on screen, it's great stuff. Now, with all that said, I think what makes this particular entry unique and special, aside from, you know, the obvious, like it's Jason in New York, and on a boat, and in Canada, it's also, and I hate to use this term, this is one of my least favorite terms. If you're a devotee of my channel, you know I do not like this term. But I will break it out this one time. This is the Jason movie. This is the Friday the 13th. That is so bad it's good. And you know what? That's worth something.
You don't understand. There is a maniac trying to kill us.
Welcome to New York.
I just noticed that I just like left all this shit just hanging out. Not all the discs are there. One's just sitting on the side like that. You know what? It's artsy. I also have a lens right here just sitting there. I'm just a hot mess. Just like this movie. Hey-o, brought it back around, buckaroos. For all you new subscribers, that's my general thing, so buckle up. All right, so Jason Takes Manhattan, New York, has a new problem. So, yes. This is all old shit. There's nothing new here. I know that Scream Factory cleaned these up before putting them on disc, which is nice, but it is still the old transfer. And as far as I can tell, it's, you know, it should be exactly the same. This one and Part 7, I don't think they really did much to, if at all, for the most part, other than changing the aspect ratio back to the originally intended one. So, cool. As far as extras that are, again, all ported over, we get audio commentary with director Rob Hedden. He is kind of boring to listen to, I'll be honest with you. He seems like a cool dude. It's just it's got to be weird to be known as the guy that made the worst Friday the 13th movie, even if that's not entirely accurate. And he just walks us along and points out little factoids and explains what's happening. It's fine. I did not finish that one. I actually didn't finish either commentary on this one because, fuck, man. The other audio commentary is with actors Scott Reeves, Jensen Daggett, and Kane Hodder. The previous two play the leads in this film, and Kane Hodder is Kane Hodder. Kane Hodder I think he's like phoning in this commentary. I don't know. I kind of started in the middle, I'll be honest with you here. Not phoning in like he wasn't trying, just like literally phoning in. And anyway, it's nice that the cast can laugh at themselves and appreciate the film with good humor. They know that it's not the best movie in the world, but they have fond memories and they reminisce and they crack jokes, and it's a lot of fun. It's a really good commentary. So if you just like an enjoyable listen commentary, the second commentary with the actors is definitely recommended. New York Has a New Problem is an 18-minute behind-the-scenes featurette on Friday the 13th Part 8 and the making of said film. It includes the director naked in the bathroom story and footage of that, which is interesting. More MPAA nightmares. By the way, this is just a little side thing. I'm sure the idea of directors getting naked to make actors comfortable is pretty old. I don't know when that started, but this is the earliest case that I can think of in my immediate memory. I'm sure someone in the comments will, in the 1927 film, whatever. But Paul Schrader notably tried this on The Canyons with Lindsay Lohan and failed remarkably. If you ever read up on that movie, it's a fucking story, man. It is wild. There's a great article, I don't remember who published it, but there's a great article about the making of that film that is insane. So recommend that. Anyway, we get more MPAA nightmares. Again, not as big of a deal as previous entries. Part 7 is definitely way more cut up. And I wouldn't say any of the effects in this movie are like mind-blowing. This probably has some of the lesser effects, even if they are kind of pumped up by just, creative directing and editing. We get the controversy over the film's quality and ending. The director tries to defend the ending, but it sucks no matter what. Nothing against Rob Hedden. Seems like a cool dude. He made plenty of good decisions in this movie. The ending was just not one of them. Slashed Scenes is 11 minutes long. Lots of little extensions to scenes. The added gore is pretty mild. Everything is from the boat minus the very, very end, which shows us that awful puppet footage. Oh boy. Ugh. But yeah, it looks good. It's not from a tape, it's from I think the actual work print. So it looks fine, everything considered.
And cut it.
Jesus, you dumbass.
And then we get a gag reel that's 5 minutes long. And, it's nice to know they were having fun on this movie. This seems like a production that, despite all of its problems, everybody had a good time on. So that's awesome. Beyond that, theatrical trailer, TV spots, stills galleries. That's it. Fuck balls. Do-do-do, do-do, do-do-do-do, do-do-do. Jason Hicks Manhattan. That's all there is to it. I'm sure someone probably clicked on this video hoping for me to rip it a new one, and some other people hoped for me to, praise it as the secret masterpiece that it really is, but the truth is, it's just kind of a meh movie with some fun, colorful flourishes. It's kind of cheap looking, but, as I said, Rob Hedden does some interesting things. It's just not enough. And so, do I think it's a bad film? Personally, I'm of the opinion that if something is truly entertaining, then it's not all bad. It's kind of a piece of shit, but it's fun, so I like it enough. It's not a very satisfying conclusion to this video, but I like it enough. That's all. It's definitely near the bottom of my list. In fact, it might actually be second to the bottom of my list. But it's not the worst, and it's still not the one Friday the 13th movie that I dislike. So, there's that. Until next time, guys, please, follow me here. I've been getting a lot of new subscribers. You guys are in for a rude awakening when this thing's over. Follow me on the Facebooks, the Twitters, the Instagrams, all that stuff. Check me out on Patreon. I've been getting some new patrons recently. I will shout out all of you in what year is it? In November. Thanks so much for money. I love that people give me things. That's wild that people find me entertaining. It really, it warms my cockles that so many people enjoy watching my videos. I don't understand it. I really don't. But if I can entertain you, that's fucking awesome. And you know what? Speaking of shitty movies that are still pretty entertaining, check out my movies on Amazon Prime. The Fatal Future is my first film. It's an homage to Neil Breen. Most people hate it, but that's okay. And then The Head, which is really hard to find, but the link is in the description. The Head is my very poorly titled, but tons of fun tribute to shot on VHS cinema, which is something I'm rather fond of. People like it, even though it will never get any critical acclaim. But I'm very proud of that film, and I'm very proud that, of this channel for gaining so many subscribers. It really makes me pleased. I'm going on way too long about this. I rant a lot. This is another thing you're going to find out about me. I go on for way too long. So, fuck all that. Go watch a movie, kids.